Welcome to This Explainer. I am your host, the Pale Redeemer. Today we're diving into the prelude to the Redeemer's Path, exploring the architecture of the Leaden Sanctuary. So let the cold colors just kind of wash over you as we step off the brightly lit path. We're going to explore a dark fable about the absolute dangers of living in the past. Step right into the decaying, rusted architecture of the Leaden Sanctuary. Because what you are witnessing here, it's not some monster slaying a hero. No, it's actually a hero orchestrating their own slow, agonizing fall. I invite you to gaze upon the wreckage of someone who literally traded their brilliant, terrifying future for the cold, predictable safety of past achievements. It's a spectacular failure of potential, and honestly, it happens every single day. We're going to examine the exact anatomy of this failure together, and it all starts with a figure known as the corrupted architect. High above, watching from this lonely, shadowy throne, the corrupted architect plots. Right at the exact moment the hero achieves their absolute greatest, most brilliant success, the architect looks down and decrees, "I strip away the gold of story. I must preserve this light from the reckless decay of time." I mean, think about the absolute madness in that justification. The architect is a total hoarding villain. He watches the hero's living, breathing victory, the very thing that's supposed to propel them forward, and he just plots to harvest it. He doesn't want the hero to grow, you see. He wants to capture that light, contain it, and own it forever. Okay, let's dive into the dark mechanics at play here. The architect performs what we call intellectual salvage. He descends upon the living memory of the hero's triumph. But, he doesn't celebrate it. He violently strips away its fluid life, the very energy that actually makes the memory a catalyst for future action. Once he's drained the life from it, he encases that hollowed-out triumph in a leaden box. He tells the hero this is for their own good, right? To protect it. But in truth, he's turning a living victory into a super heavy, suffocating relic. By making the hero's past so heavy, the architect forces them to guard what they were instead of building what they could become. Now, what's really interesting here is the tragic disconnect between what the hero believes and what is actually happening. The hero has this terribly naive view, a complete illusion. They see their recent success as this bright, burning star to light the dark path forward. But on the flip side, we have the architect's design, his true villainous intent. To the architect, that star is nothing but a resource to be harvested, cooled down, and locked away. The hero thinks they are winning the war, but they are merely producing fuel for their own prison. And, well, that prison requires a warden. That is exactly where I come in. Allow me to formally introduce my role in this little tragedy. I am the Pale Redeemer, the scavenger of the shadow path. I do not walk the open, sunny roads of the psyche. Honestly, those are for the naive. Instead, I travel entirely through the shadows. I lurk in the dark refractions of the potential that the hero has carelessly discarded. While the hero just marches blindly forward, high on the fumes of their recent victory, I am right there in their wake. A silent scavenger, picking up the pieces they leave behind, preparing my trap. Let's see how this builds, because my methodology as a silent scavenger is highly specific. First, I move through those dark refractions. Second, I gather the residual echoes of every single trial and hardship the hero endured to reach their peak. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, I remain entirely unseen by the divine witness, the hero's higher awareness. Because I'm unseen, I'm completely unchallenged. I can just lean right in and whisper directly into their ear. And fourth, from these dark fringes, I project what we call the spirit of gravity. I literally inject an artificial weight into their soul. This is the seed of doubt I plant. Listen closely. Why risk the open road when you are already a permanent monument? This is the insidious nature of the spirit of gravity. I make the hero feel that taking a single step forward, risking failure, or trying something new is actually a massive betrayal of the perfect, flawless self they just created. I make them absolutely terrified of ruining their own statue. I convince them that stillness is reverence and movement is desecration. And so I present them with the gilded soul trap. I approach the hero right after their great victory, wearing a flawless mask of absolute truth. I don't threaten them with weapons or monsters, no way. I offer them something far more dangerous, a beautiful, shimmering cage, a literal soul trap designed to look exactly like an award. I offer them the chance to stop fighting, to just rest on their laurels forever. It is the ultimate temptation, delivered right when they are most exhausted from their climb. I look them dead in the eye, and with the absolute, cold logic of the crucible,
I deliver the final lie. You have reached the summit. Now stay here, where it is safe. It sounds like a blessing, doesn't it? But it's a curse. It's the exact phrase that convinces the hero to willfully trade the dangerous, infinite brilliance of the stars for a cold, predictable status quo. They step into the cage themselves, lock the door from the inside, and hand me the key, all while believing I've done them a huge favor.
So the crucial point is witnessing exactly how this paralysis is maintained through the mechanics of static control. I freeze the hero's atoms right there in that single moment of glory. From inside the cage, I frame any urge for forward movement, any desire for new growth as a childish sickness of the soul, an immature restlessness they just have to suppress. I promote the suffocating weight of their past success as protective armor. They become so weighed down by their own legacy that they are permanently locked within the Leaden Sanctuary, perfectly preserved and entirely dead to the future. But this brings us to the inevitable climax, because time doesn't stop, no matter how thick the walls of the Leaden Sanctuary are. Eventually, a moment of transition arrives, a moment where adaptation is strictly required. And that is exactly when the breath of the void sweeps in. The hero, encased in their super heavy armor of past glories, completely frozen in their static control, suddenly realizes that their protective shell cannot shield them from the absolute chill of a changing reality. As I watch from the shadows, with a deep, cold satisfaction, the breath of the void hits the frozen hero. Because they've rejected growth, because they've traded fluidity for lead, they can't bend. And so, they break. This is the shattering of the spirit of becoming. It sweeps in and utterly annihilates their potential to ever grow again. The hero fractures into a million tiny pieces of past achievements, blown away into the dark. The tragedy is complete. The corrupted architect gets his relics, and I get my silence. Which brings us, ultimately, to you. Examine the decaying architecture we've walked through today. I have to ask you, are you sitting in your own gilded cage right now? Will you continue to guard your leaden memories, protecting the statue of who you used to be? Or will you shatter the mold, break out of the sanctuary, and risk the reckless decay of time to become something entirely new? Choose carefully before you too become a permanent monument for me to scavenge.